DEI Instructional Videos Sewing Series. In this series of instructional videos, you will learn how to hand sew, as well as learn about machines. May the power of sewing help you in your challenge.
Hi everyone!
My name's Emily.
And my name is Maddy, and we've been doing DI for about 10 years, and today we will be showing you the fundamentals of hand sewing and machine sewing.
We have made it to globals multiple times over our years, and we've made lots of things.
We've made everything from togas to umbrellas to 7-foot monsters that pop up. So
pretty much anything you can think of.
Yeah, if you can think of it, we've made it.
We're very excited to be showing you the basics of sewing today.
So that you can be as successful as we have been in our years of DI.
So today I will be showing you guys how to hand sew, and we will be making a small pillow. For this we will need scissors, pins, needles, thread. You might want to use a thimble, but that's really up for your interpretation, cloth, and a tape measure, and also a pen. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to measure and cut your fabric to size. So I'm going to be making a relatively small pillow, and you just want to line on the paper with chalk where you will be cutting and sewing. So the next step is we want to make the pillow inside out so that the fabric that we want to show is on the outside. So the reason that we are doing it inside out is so that you cannot see the seams that you're going to make. Usually you'll want to use a thread that coordinates with the color of your fabric, but today I'm going to be using a black thread so that it is easier for you all to see what I'm doing. So right now I'm just pinning the fabric so that I know where to sew and I know where my seams will be. You're going to want to put your pins an even distance apart, just sort of giving yourself a guideline as to where you're going to sew. To put the pins in, I just pinch the fabric where I want and then just push the pins straight through so that I know where it's going to come out and I don't end up stabbing myself. You're going to want to do this all around the perimeter of your pillow so that you know where and when you can start and stop sewing. So as you get to the end of pinning, you're going to want to leave about a 2 to 3 inch gap for where, once we're done sewing, we're going to turn it inside out and then stuff. So I'm just on my last 2 pins right now, and then I'm going to leave the gap at the very end. So this is the final product for now. We have pins evenly spaced all the way around, and now we are ready to sew. For this next part, we'll be using a needle and some thread. You're gonna wanna get a good amount of thread for your pillow. Like I said before, I'm using black thread so that you can see, but normally you would want to use thread that matches your fabric. So before we thread the needle, I'm going to tie a pretty big knot in the end of the thread just so that it doesn't go through the fabric when we first thread it through. So that should be good. It's just a small knot, but it should be big enough to stop the thread from going all the way through. So next, when threading your needle, You have to have a very steady hand because obviously the eye of the needle is very small. It can be sometimes difficult if you don't have a pretty sharp edge to your thread. So you just want to line it up and then push it through. And then you can also, this is called a thimble. You can use a thimble so that when you're sewing, you put it on your thumb or one of your fingers, so that you don't poke yourself when you push the needle through. So we're going to be starting right where we first started pinning. You're just going to push the needle through and make sure that you grab the two edges of the thread so that it doesn't come out of the needle. And you just want to pull it all the way through until it comes to the knot where it should stop itself from going through. After that, you're just going to be taking your thread and pushing it back through to the bottom like you did before and pulling it through. Your first stitch should look something like this. You're just going to repeat those steps for the first few stitches, pushing it back through to the top, and following the guidelines that you made for yourself with the pins. You can make the stitches as large or as small as you want. You just have to make sure that you go around the pins. So as we've come to the end, I have sewn all around the edges of the pillow, and as I've gone along, I've been taking the pins out just so that it's a little bit of a neater space to work in. I'm on the last pin and I only have a few more stitches to go, and I'm going to be showing you guys how to end the stitch. You're going to want to tie it off in a knot right as we come to the end. So I'm going to take this last pin out, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to push it through from the top to the bottom, and then I'm going to leave a little bit of space so that there's still a bit of a loop right here. And now I'm going to push it back through before pulling all the way through with, I'm going to leave that loop there. And then I am going to tie a knot around this loop, and you can take your needle out at this point. So I'm going to tie a knot around the loop with this thread. So now that that knot is tied, you can cut the thread. And the next step is turning the pillowcase inside out. So you're going to take where that small edge was that you left open, and you're just gonna push it through, push the fabric through. The bigger the loop is, the easier that it will be, but also the more that you have to sew at the end. I've turned the pillowcase all the way inside out, you can see that the colors that I wanted to be on the outside are, and you can't see the seams. You can see a little bit of the black, but that's why you want to match your thread with your fabric. So starting at this small opening that I left, I am going to stuff full using this stuffing. Any stuffing really works. There's tons of different kinds. And you're just gonna take small pieces and put it through until it's at the fluffiness that you would like it. So as you can see, I have stuffed full the pillow. It's pretty fluffy. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna thread a needle again, and we are going to sew shut the hole that we have been using to put the stuffing in. So right now I am just threading the needle. I have tied another knot in the ends, if you can see that. And so now again, you would want to use a thread that matches your fabric, but for the purposes of showing you guys, I am using black thread just so that it's easier to see. So this part's a little bit more difficult because your pillow will be stuffed at this point, but we just want to start by pushing the needle through and using the same stitching technique as we did before. So as you guys can see, I'm just using the same threading technique that we used on the other seams of this pillow. You want to make sure that you fold the edges over so that the edges that have been cut are not exposed, because then it makes it easier for the seams to rip. So now that I've come to the edge of the pillow, as you can see the seams very easily. I'm just going to do the same thing that I did on the inside of the pillow to tie a knot and end the seam. This one you might want to do a double knot just so that you are sure that your seam won't come undone. And then you're going to want to cut the excess off, and now your pillow is done.